Hello, this is James Cook of the University of Maine at Augusta, and I am recording this video to talk about the complexity of uh, policy making regarding social problems in terms of two general ideas. The first being a policy domain, and the second being the idea of a policy agenda. Now, if a policy domain is one in which we're thinking about a network of individuals, then that requires us to think about who those individuals are that are engaged in discussion regarding a policy. A policy arena, on the other hand, is thought of as a space, whether that is a literal physical space or an organizational space consisting of groups in which consideration of policy occurs. Then we need to think about what those spaces might be. So if we take policy domains and we take policy arenas seriously in the consideration of social problems, we want to know what are the networks. We want to know what are the spaces. Therefore, we need to know what the places are, what the groups are, who the individuals are that are involved, and of what sort. Then there is the idea of policy action. What can be done? And that question for policy action applies to both policy arenas and policy domains, so that some things can be done in some spaces but not others. Some things can be done by some people but not others. And to think about a policy network, a domain, as this network of individuals operating in different arenas, we can think of that as a variety of individuals in a variety of spaces trying to do a variety of things. All of a sudden, the question of how policymaking occurs becomes complicated. And to demonstrate that, I would like to consider the space of a local policy making body called the Maine State Legislature. As an outsider, how would you go about tracking what's going on in terms of policy action within policy arenas by members of a policy domain in that network of interacting others? To do this, it's not quite as simple as you might think. The first thing one might do is to visit the website of the Maine State Legislature. So we might go to Google and type in Maine State Legislature. And we would see that there would be a website for the Maine State Legislature, as all state legislatures in the United States have nowadays. And we would see an indication that being able to provide information is important, which is great. How do we see that indication? We see that here through a search engine and an indication that we can engage in advanced bill search. It means that central, literally, to this web page is the idea of searching and finding. It's a presentation of a claim of transparency, and that you, as the visitor to the Maine State Legislature website, you can get the information you need. So let's take a look at what is available. And if we look at the advanced bill search, at first glance, it's quite staggering. We can look for titles and subjects. We can search by any number of paper numbers, LD numbers. Wow, what are these? Sponsorships, actions, what's gone on, what the dates were for particular actions. It looks like it's exhaustive. And Certainly, this is a more detailed search experience than you might find, say, on Google, at least at first blush. However, then the question has to be, well, what are all of these things? What is an LD number? How is that different than a paper number? How would you know this? If you are searching a title or a subject, is that the same as searching entire text? What is a sponsor? So already, in order to use this search device, right, to find actions taken by people in an arena, you need to have a certain literacy and awareness and a knowledge of what all of these pieces of information mean. And if you don't know what those are, this is not a search engine that you can actually use, even though it's quite broad and it can go quite deep. It can go back more than a decade and give you quite a lot. If you are just trying to find something, anything, going back to the main legislature website, a search by text might seem to be more useful to you. So let's say that you are interested in a bill on human trafficking, which is that's a phrase that is often used in searches. Okay, we would get a set of results from the main page that would be quite long. In fact, it's giving us 50, 60, 90, 95 results. But if we look in greater detail, we notice that a lot of these results have nothing to do with human trafficking. So the last bill is an act to require ingredient lists at certain retail food locations. The first bill in the list is an act to allow and recognize a legal name change upon marriage. The second is to provide coverage for abortion services for main care members. And the third regards mental health. We're not necessarily going to get everything we need simply by putting words into this search engine. We might limit it, we might get a little bit more particular, and we might find that nothing occurs. There are no documents found matching the query. And yet, if we were to engage, excuse me, that's because I typed in trafficking. If I type trafficking, I do find a few. We have to be careful. And we do get a little bit more particular, but you have to be careful, first of all, about how you search. So the first kind of limitation is one of literacy. The second is knowing exactly where to go to find the information that you would like. Let's say we would like to know how votes went. If we go to this set of results for bill tracking and text search, let's say we are interested in LD 324, which stands for Legislative Document 324, HP House Paper 249, which means that it was introduced in the House, and we want to find out how it was voted upon. We're presented with the ability to read the public law as it was passed. We're presented with the ability to read amendments and to read the bill, but how would we go about finding out how votes went? There doesn't seem to be a link here. If we go to chamber status on the left, a very small link, we have to start searching all over again. So here are some limitations, right? There's another link for bill and fiscal information. Does that help? a little bit, but it does let us know that it was acted upon and signed by the governor in May 8th. We still don't see particular information. Over here on the left, if we look at this bill, HP 249 and LD 324, remember both numbers, we can find things like the text and disposition, amendments, status, divided reports. We have to know these words. What does disposition mean? It indicates where it ended up. Let's try chamber status. Only then when we click chamber status do we find further links on the left. Okay, so the second thing that we're noticing is that we have a division according to different kinds of links we click. Okay, we have a division by number, HP 249 versus LD 324, two numbers we need to remember. And then you'll also notice it's very subtle when you actually click over from this description that contains text over to chamber status. You're actually changing into a different kind of website. It's got a different kind of background with a different sort of information, right? And if you look in the website, you'll notice that there is actually a different program, one that is called Display PS, and then if we move forward, another one that is called Summary.asp as part of the Lawmaker web package. So it's all a little bit confusing, but we can find information now if we go deep enough on roll calls. It turns out there were no roll calls. Okay, and what about sponsors? Okay, we can find sponsors, the names of people who supported this bill. We can find a list of actions. Okay. Let's say we want to find out who testifies. How can we find that information? We've got bill text here. We've got status and committee over here. None of these, aha! Now when we click on status and committee, we're taken to a different page. So if we look carefully, status and committee and chamber status will take us to two different pieces of information. And if and only if we then know to click for those two different status pages, there's one that allows us, if we click the plus, to find a list of names. So we find that Lois Reckitt, who is a primary sponsor, testified, as did John Pelletier, D. Clark, and Dusty Sprague. So we've got that information now. Let's track this. Okay, what have we got so far? We have information regarding bills. Okay, these are pieces of action. And we know that they have LDs, and we know that they have HPs. Okay, sometimes they don't have an HP. Sometimes they will have an SP number, not an HP number, because they will be Senate paper rather than a House number. Regardless, they will have an LD number. Sometimes what you will see referred to is an LD number, and sometimes you'll see a paper number, an SP or an HP. We also know that we can get information on individuals. So let's take a look at that, and let's record that as we go. So we can get an information on different kinds of lawmakers or participants in the network. We have lawmakers, and we came upon those who testify, okay? And are they the same kinds of people? Not necessarily. So we find, for instance, that Dusty Sprague or Spragg or Sprague, I don't know the pronunciation, is not actually a legislator. But if we click through and get to read the testimony that comes up, which is in PDF form, we find out that she is submitting information today on behalf of the main coalition against sexual assault, MICASA. And it's an organization that is outside the government. So now we have, in addition to bills and individuals, we have organizations. So we need a third tab for organizations, and we have a nonprofits that can, these non-business organizations that are trying to gain information. How do we find that out? We find that out through actually reading the text of a piece of legislation, a piece of testimony. What would happen if we wanted to search and find out, did Dusty Sprague or Sprague actually engage in testimony elsewhere? Oh, it looks like on the left, we could search through testimony. Do we find in mainlegislature.org on the main page that we can search through testimony? Let's go back. No, there's not an opportunity. We can only search through text or by bill number. What about through an advanced search? We can only here engage in a bill search. Can we search a bill by who perhaps testified? No. So we have another kind of search, which you can only get to by actually looking at a particular bill first. Then you find it's possible to search testimony. What happens if we want to search testimony? Oh, well, we can search for any number of sessions. That's lovely. And we can search for different parts of a legislative session. Notice you have to know what the numbers 129, 128, 127 refer to. They're 2-year sessions. So again, not just any citizen is going to be able to do this. Boy, do we want to find someone's name? Yeah, we would love to find someone's name. We know of someone named Dusty Sprague who testified before. Let's see if that pulls anything up. It doesn't find any documents found matching the query. Okay, so that's quite curious. Even though we're talking here about searching testimony, we're not actually able to search the testimony, right? So where do we go from there? We know that we're interested in LD 324. And if we wanted to work from 324 to 324, we could do that. It's only the bill that is something that we can search, not the testimony. Testimony is not searchable, even though it says here that we can search testimony. It doesn't seem to work. Okay. The only way to find out if we have, if Dusty Sprague has actually testified elsewhere, is to go and look at every bill. That's not very helpful. What else could we do? We could try to hack this, and Google has a really interesting feature. And it allows you to type cite and colon, and then the name of a website, like mainlegislature.org, and then to type in certain terms that might occur. So what happens if we type in the name Dusty Sprague? Okay, then finally we get a list of results. It is not ideal. We have 9 results, but it includes Myron Sprague, as well as Dusty Sprague, who lists herself as Dusty Homan Sprague. There are some other results that were omitted. And for the results that include Dusty Sprague, who is also listed as Dusty Homan Sprague, we note that they are from the years of 2016, 2011, 2015, and 2015. So we don't actually have current year reports, even though we know from having surfed through from testimony from Monday, February 25th, 2019 at 10 a.m. that we have information on a Dusty Sprague who testified. We also notice it's generating a PDF. It's dynamically there. It's not there just waiting for a search engine to go through. This is a PDF, and PDFs are not as easily searched, especially when they are generated by a program on a server, which is what's being done by the ASP program on the main legislature server. So, if the idea is that we're wanting to get information on individuals, like those who are testifying, we don't have the ability to do that here. We have to be very careful, even with Google, about making any conclusions. And this is with a website that is supposed to be sharing information on what is happening by those who take policy action within a policy network in a policy arena that is public and meant to represent all people of the state of Maine. Well, let's go back and let's consider who else might be involved. It's not just lawmakers who are involved and those who are testifying on an issue who are involved, but also those who are doing something called lobbying on an issue, and they are also involved. So lobbyists are individuals who are paid to advocate for a particular position. They're paid money to spend time establishing themselves as part of a network, a policy domain, a set of people who are involved in a conversation. So how do we know who are the people who have been lobbying here on this particular issue? The answer very quickly is that we don't. We don't know whether D. Clark, John Pelletier, or Dusty Sprague are lobbyists or not. In order to find out information on who a lobbyist is and who a lobbyist isn't, we have to go to yet another website. There is no information on lobbyists as individuals at the mainlegislature.org website. Instead, we might go to Google and we might type in Maine legislature lobbyists. And we would find out from Google, not from the mainlegislature.org website, that the commission, something called the commission, oh, that's the Maine Ethics Commission, maintains lists of registered lobbyists, lobbyist compensation, and state employee legislative designees. Whatever that is. In order to figure out what that is, you also have to know what these terms. Oh, that's interesting. So let's click through on that page to find out more on this Maine Ethics Commission and what it does. It's the also called the Maine Commission on Governmental Ethics and Election Practices. Oh, okay. So there's information and resources for lobbyists here, which is great. Well, what about for those of us who want to read up on this? Okay, there has to be a joint registration and file monthly reports. Oh, here we go. So then we can click through here to find reports. Oh no, it's just a description of what the reports are. Okay, so how would we search through those? Oh, we might go to view reports and lists over on the left. And again, this is a different website. This is not mainelegislature.org. It's www.maine.gov/ethics/lobbyists. Let's see what we can find there. Does that take us to information on lobbyists? Let's find out. Well, what we're seeing here is another set of kind of information. Information on contributions, candidates and committees, and campaign finance. That's something entirely different. So contributing is another kind of information. But and that's another kind of individual, a contributor, one who gives money, like to the Chamberlain Project, which tried in 2018 successfully to, and prior to that, to have ranked choice voting move forward. So we're a little stymied here. What if we wanted, let's try again. This first result didn't come up. Let's type in again in Google, Maine legislature, lobbyists. And let's look up, do we want to search through them? Perhaps let's search through them. Okay, so we clicked on this one before. Let's try other disclosure. Oh, okay. So finally we get on the same website under other disclosure. Oh, okay. Perhaps it would be not for other disclosure, this one way down. We could find something about lobbyists, lists of registered lobbyists, compensation reports, and lobbyist client spending. Okay. And that's for, looks like we have 2010 up to 2014. It's located on the financial disclosure site. Let's take a look there. Oh, and we could search that information as well. Okay, so why don't we click on that second link, search lobbying information. Wow, you have to do a lot of hunting and pecking. Oh, and now we have a Maine Ethics Commission lobbyist disclosure site. And we find out that lobbyists are required to file monthly reports of their lobbying activities in Maine. Whew. This site allows the public to view, if you can find it, and download information concerning lobbyists, who are people who are paid to be there and be talking to legislators. So let's do that. Let's do some searches. Okay, I'm clicking on searches. It's not doing anything. Looks like I have to select one of these two, filed registrations or lobbying info. What do those mean? Who knows? You have to be in the know. Why don't we try both? Oh, we would like to include pages searching by name, and let's try the name Sprague. We have to know how to spell it. S-P-R-A-G-U-E. Okay, so we're just going to use the last name to start with and see what we get. Let's search. There are 6 registered candidate records and no. Well, this is listed by candidates. Andrea Maker, who is a lobbyist for Sprague Energy Corporation. So it looks like Dusty Sprague may not be a lobbyist. What about John Pelletier? We could look that up. And what happens if we do last name / first? Nothing. What about if we type in John Pelletier? Doesn't give us information on how to do this. Nothing. What if we go by just plain Pelletier? Nothing. No Pelletiers. Okay. So we can search these filed registrations. We could also search lobbying information. If we search here, finally, we get a list of lobbyists. And we could go and look through. Wow, there's a lot. We could look for Pelletier. And it looks like there's no Pelletier. Is there a Sprague? Or Sprague? No, there isn't. Okay, so we get a full list here of individuals by name. We could also get a list of clients, which is a little bit even more interesting. So for instance, if we wanted to just search through alphabetically, there's a whole lot of things that are these. What about the Chamberlain Project? Okay, and what if we wanted to get a current lobbyist list? Okay, we could do that. That's great. Wow. But unfortunately, these seem to be different kinds of lobbyists. They don't seem to be associated with the Chamberlain project at all. Let's go back and check, right? If the client is, let's find another one, the Campaign to Regulate Marijuana Like Alcohol. Okay. And let's search that. We have to, I see. We have to, so that is not a, that's a different kind of list. So we can search here. We could search, see, this is getting complicated. It's hard to do. The Chamberlain Project. And then we have to hit search again. Okay, now we get information. Oh, they didn't do anything. Okay, so we could find the Campaign to Regulate Marijuana Like Alcohol. Then we could hit search, and then we get no information. Okay. We could find out who the clients were that were active. Oh, this looks like it's not search at all. It's just browsing. We could browse the current client list. Oh, good gracious. Okay. And then we would find client names and lobbyist names. Oh, I see. So the clients is who they're working for. For instance, the American Chemistry Council has 2 lobbyists. Okay. And the Appalachian Mountain Club has 1 lobbyist. Okay, so we could get that information, we could search through it, but it is at a second website. At a third website, maincampaignfinance.com, we could go through and we could search both candidates and committees. This is a third kind of search. And we could put in a name like Dusty Sprague. I'm just picking on her because she seems to have, well, what? Okay, she's neither a candidate nor a committee. Can we search for someone who's a contributor? Not there. How about transaction search? Finally, it looks like we might be able to do that. If we, oh, okay, for 2019, 20, 22, and 18, we can select those. Now let's select a search type. We want contributions. And can we have a contributor name? We can. So let's look for someone with the last name of Sprague. And it's going to allow us, to handily go through in a completely different kind of search than these other are. Adesti Hallman Sprague, we don't see any indication that she's made any direct contributions, but we could search for someone else by the name of Sprague, and we could go ahead and where do we get to search? Can we just search by contributor? We have to find a candidate or committee type. It's in red. We have to pick that first. Okay, to candidates. Right? So we can carry out that search. And now we have to put that back in. Sprague Benjamin. Okay, Benjamin. Let's find out what you've done. We have to wait. And then finally, we can get some information. I'm sharing with you, by the way, Benjamin Sprague has donated to John Nutting and Beverly Uhlenhacke. So $100 each. And we can view that information. That's nice. That's lovely. But boy, this has been an exhausting experience, right? So let's think about what that experience can be like. For someone like myself, I've been looking at Maine government for at least a decade. I find still the experience to be a little overwhelming. In order to actually go through any one of these searches, to find any one piece of information, you have to know actually quite a lot. You have to know what the difference is, if you're doing a search here, between a contribution, an expenditure, or an independent expenditure. You have to know in candidate or committee type what the difference is between all these candidates and committees. And you can't even get the list of those until you put in a search type. There's a whole lot of information that you need for any one of these three very different kind of searches, each one of which has information squirreled away in little corners that you can't get right at the beginning. You also need to know that at any one of these three locations, you can't get everything you need regarding the policy-making process that involves policy actions taken by policy networks in policy arenas. If you wanted to tie these all together, you might find that to be really quite difficult because you would have to know who the actors were on a bill. You'd have to go to the Maine legislature website to get that. You'd have to know who the lobbyists were that were active on a bill, and you would go to the Maine Ethics Commission website to do that. And then you'd have to get contribution information, and you'd have to go to yet another Maine Ethics Commission website to get that information. All of that information is there. It is public, but connecting those pieces of information is not intuitive. It's not easy. And it's not even legible to most people who are in the state of Maine. So if you are someone who wants to understand the policymaking process within the state of Maine, I hope that what I've demonstrated to you in this video is that it's not going to be a straightforward process. If that's the case, who's going to be able to master that process? Is it going to be a citizen who has a limited amount of time, who isn't paid to go up and manage government? Probably not. Is it a state government worker who does this for a living and either is a legislator or is on legislative staff or is in the main executive branch and has to work with the legislature a lot? Probably yes. Is it somebody who is in a business that makes its money by working through the legislature, or is part of a well-funded nonprofit organization that can hire somebody to know this information, like a lobbyist, and knows where to find it, and knows how to follow it, and check, and double check, and check again the next week? Yes. What does that mean about the nature of the policy network? It means that unless you have a lot of time, you have a lot of resources, that you may not know even who's in the network. You may find it hard to know who to talk to, and you may find it hard to become a member of that policy domain yourself.